What's the atmosphere down there right now, Jim?
You've got a whole state on edge at this point. I haven't met a confident Republican yet. I haven't met a Democrat yet who's saying we've got this in hand. It's just completely. If you've seen a poll on this, ignore it. It's just absolutely all pure turnout. And what's making Republicans nervous, of course, is that the Democrats have finally caught on to this runoff stuff. I mean, they had won one since '88, well, I think it was, and what they've got for the first time is they have time and they have money. These are the first statewide runoffs that we've had that are 9 weeks out, because they're federal contests. If this were a state contest, it would only be 3 weeks out, where Republicans have had this perennial advantage. But Democrats have had 2 months to get their act together, and it looks like they've done it. You do have Governor Brian Kemp, a Republican, as we all know, was on the radio this morning saying, "Look,
he's turned up."
That's right. Yeah, he is. He's saying, "Look, unless Republicans have a stellar day on Tuesday, they could lose this thing."
I think from a national perspective, there's been a lot of, oh boy, Republicans in disarray sort of feeling about all this from Democrats. Do you think the average base Republican voter who loves both of these Senate candidates and loves Trump and loves her or his party, are they really going to be discouraged by all this backbiting between Republican elected officials in Washington and Atlanta?
No, not the base, not the base. But what you have is, look, you had David Perdue didn't clear 50%
right
on November 3rd, but he finished ahead of Trump. So, and if you take all the Republicans who voted in the Loeffler race, they finished above Trump. If you take all these state house races in Georgia and add all the Republicans together, they finished ahead of Trump. So there are some people who are willing, especially at the upper echelon, there are people who are willing to vote against Trump, and yet we're willing to embrace Perdue and or Loeffler. Okay, now the question is, have they sullied themselves too much as Trump people to be acceptable? It's a very thin wedge, but it is a wedge.
Right. Well, in that respect, are there any bellwether jurisdictions that election watchers should be paying a special attention to as the votes come in tomorrow night or Tuesday night?
Well, Whitfield County is an excellent one. This is Dalton. This is where Trump is going to be. It is, by the way, hometown of his wife number 2 to
yes.
Donald Trump. Which adds a little bit of spice to it. But if you're not seeing long lines in rural Georgia poll places, then Republicans are going to be in trouble.
That's right. Now, normally, I should mention here that I'm from Georgia originally. I live in California now. Typically, these runoff elections, the votes counted pretty fast. Is that the expectation?
It's not. It's not the expectation this time. We are looking for a repeat of November 3rd.
Georgia being Georgia, you can usually account on at least one jurisdiction having a voting machine malfunction or some other issue that causes later poll openings or some sort of delay in the count. But you're basically saying that we may not know the outcome of this incredible election for a couple of days, right?
Yeah, I think on November 3rd, it took until Saturday for us for everybody to call that race, to call the contest for Biden. So yeah, but do remember, I mean, November 3rd was in Georgia, in terms of Georgia standards, that was an incredibly clean and efficient race. Well, we didn't have the long lines. Now there have been some complaints about early voting because because the number of polling stations for early voting have been reduced. Democrats are calling foul, but election officials, quite frankly, are saying, you know, we've been put through the ringer these last 9 weeks, and we just don't have the personnel anymore.